Lavis, who currently lives in Sydney and manages some of Google Cloud's most important partnerships in Australia and New Zealand. Dan studied services marketing back in 2000. He did his industry placement year with General Electric, which at the time was the largest company in the world, and has had a range of roles in the past 20 years in financial service companies, professional service firms, consulting firms, startups, which included FinTech, HR Tech, MarTech. I've invited Dan to talk to us about what it's like to work for Google and be at the heart of the world of cloud computing, AI and machine learning, and how COVID shaped working at Google, but perhaps more interestingly, how Google has helped shape the way we work in a COVID world. Welcome, Dan. To get started, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Google and, of course, what it's like to work there?
Hi, Kath, and hi, everybody. Hey, it's really great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. And it's funny listening to all of those jobs and industries that I've had. You know, RMIT was a long time ago. I feel old, but I'm still young at heart, I guess. So I'm really happy to talk about my experience at Google. I've been here for almost a year now, and it's a pretty amazing organisation. So most of you would know Google's history. It was started in 1995 in a dorm room at Stanford University by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. I was just doing my final year of school, year 12 at that point. But back in 1998, we caught the attention of Silicon Valley investors, and we're incorporated as a company. And you know, one of the big Google principles is all about focus on the best possible user experience. And you know, in the simplest way that we experience Google, just using it as a search engine, that should be you know, very, very obvious. You know, our mission as a business is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. There's another couple of interesting sort of values that we have as a business. You know, we believe that fast is better than slow. We're probably one of the few businesses that believes that our goal is to help our visitors leave our website as quickly as possible. And we also have a very strong principle around not being evil. Now, you may have read that, and that really defines not just the way we work as a business, but also you know, how we work as employees. Some interesting facts about Google that you may not know. On average, Google acquires about one company every week. So Google is a part of the Alphabet group of companies. And Alphabet is where Google puts its big bets. So we have some interesting businesses that are in the Alphabet stable at the moment. So Wing, for example, is our drone business. We're doing drone deliveries in some suburbs in Brisbane at the moment as a part of a trial. We have Waymo, which is our driverless cars. Google Maps lets users now explore Mars. I didn't know that before I started looking for some of these facts. Every second, Google processes about 40,000 search queries every second. We have over 271 products. Again, that might be an interesting fact that you weren't aware of. And Google Chrome accounted for, at the end of 2020, Google Chrome accounted for 36% of all mobile web traffic in the US. Pretty amazing. We also have 9 products that have over 1 billion users. I'll let that sink in, 1 billion. Photos, Maps has over 5 billion downloads, and the numbers are just mind-blowing. Google Drive has over 5 billion installs. Some other random facts. So Google has some really interesting googly tools that staff can use. So one's called the % tool, where I can search and see how I've been here a year. In fact, no, 336 days I started at Google. And according to it, 33.7% of full-time employees in our extended workforce have been at Google or Alphabet less time than I have. So I've been here now longer than 33% of our entire workforce. Pretty amazing. So I work in Google Cloud, and perhaps you and your students are familiar with Google Cloud. Maybe you're not. In Australia, we were the kind of the third public cloud to market. So the other cloud providers that you may be familiar with are Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure. Google as a business built one of the largest computing infrastructures in the world to support our own core services. And so back in 2008, we decided to open that up to businesses. So in 2008, Google Cloud was formed with a product called App Engine, which was a tool to run applications on our infrastructure. And then Google Cloud Storage was launched back in 2010. I mean, we're a young business, but we're known as a hyperscaler because we are going through hyper growth right now. Each year we're growing at least 100% growth every year. At the end of last year, we in 2021, this is public information, we did more in our final quarter in revenue than we did in 2017 the whole year, to give you a sense of how quickly we're growing. So that's Google, and then I've narrowed it down to Google Cloud where I work. And then in terms of my role, so I am what's called a partner development manager. And what that business jargon means is that I lead the partnership that we have with a number of companies that we work with very closely that support us in helping customers adopt or move to Google Cloud. So one of the partners I look after is Accenture, for example, and they're our #1 partner globally. So I spend my day hustling between our teams and our partners' teams to bring them together to look for ways that together we can build solutions on Google Cloud, whether that's compute solutions or storage or networking or AI or ML, to solve real customer problems. And what's really interesting is Google has a very open approach to cloud computing. Our competitors have historically locked their customers in. So if you're a Microsoft shop, then typically all of your cloud computing was with Microsoft. As we are evolving into the sort of next era of cloud computing, the transformation era, businesses have recognized a couple of things. One is that there's risks associated with putting all of your computing, moving it from big steel boxes on premise to up in the cloud. But if you just have them all in one basket, if there's downtime or there's issues that happen with your primary cloud provider, you don't have a fail-safe. And so many clouds are now adopting a multi-cloud strategy. And so it's very common for businesses now to start thinking about strategically, particularly financial services, how do I mitigate my risk by thinking about where I put my workloads. And that's led to then businesses starting to think about which cloud is the right cloud for the right activities. And so we are often talked about in the industry as the data cloud or the AI cloud or the transformation cloud. Why? Because what's one of Google's core strengths? It's data and processing vast amounts of information. So together with Accenture, we're working on a number of engagements where we're looking at ways that Google can solve complex data problems for customers using things like AI and ML.
Okay, so what are other services that Google Cloud provides? And can you tell me more about who uses them? You've mentioned Accenture. Perhaps you could explain who Accenture are and basically what are the other segments that use Google Cloud?
Sure. So actually, Accenture are one of the world's largest consulting and technology implementation firms. So businesses will engage Accenture to help them transform an organization. It could be digitally transforming a process or a function or a product, or it could be optimizing the way data is stored so that, a great example, think of a retailer, think of an e-commerce pure play retailer, or what we call digital native, born in the cloud, that has peak computing requirements during sale periods like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So, the advantage of cloud computing is that it's what we call elastic, which means you can grow and expand your computing requirements needed to process vast data, and you only pay for what you need at the time. So as your computing expands and contracts, you're only paying for what you're using. Now, if a business was looking to build that type of environment in the cloud, they might engage a consulting business like Accenture. Accenture are also one of our biggest customers, so they live and breathe running their business operations in the cloud. There are a number of ways businesses can do things with cloud providers like us. So the first is computing, so that's processing of data. So take, for example, it's a great example, the in New South Wales, where I live, the COVID Safe check-in app. It lives in Google Cloud. So every time a user like me scans a QR code and goes into a restaurant or a cafe or wherever, that data is being processed in an app straight into the cloud. So the New South Wales government chose us because they were able to expand a contract as demand required. So that's compute. And we're moving into this, we started off in an era of just moving the metal boxes and their workloads straight to the cloud and running them in what they call virtual machines. We're moving into this new era of digital transformation and modernization. So those applications, let's just say like Windows and Microsoft, were built to live in metal boxes. They weren't built or optimized to live in the cloud. So we're doing a lot of work now helping businesses transform their cloud. It may not be the most efficient, and so we're helping them optimize the activities that they've got. Data is huge. So a lot of businesses use one of our products called BigQuery, which helps analyze enormous, vast terabytes of data in a really short amount of time. Again, so and interestingly, some of that data may live in other clouds. Google doesn't care. We're able to analyze and interpret and get results from vast amounts of data wherever it's sitting. The Internet of Things and something called edge computing, which I didn't know about until a year ago, is a really interesting application of the cloud. 5G mobile telecommunications now is allowing vast amounts of data to be transferred using the mobile network effortlessly. So edge computing means having a device like a camera that might be out in the street watching traffic and passing back that data, but actually processing that data on the edge. It's doing it there and then in the device and sending it to the cloud and processing that data, as opposed to being plugged into a network. So, things like our TVs, our Google devices, our Chrome boxes, our talking to Siri, that's all Internet of Things. Machine learning and AI, which we'll talk about in a bit because that's hugely interesting to me, is all in the cloud, and that's using the power of data and machine learning algorithms to help solve complex problems and to process vast amounts of data, like in healthcare, analysing blood cells, vast amounts of blood cells to search for markers that might indicate cancer, for example, stuff that would have taken researchers in laboratories months, if not years, to do. AI machine learning can be trained up to do that in a matter of minutes or days.
That's amazing.
Probably the last thing that's worth mentioning is security and identity management. In today's day and age, probably one of the #1 concerns that CIOs have, that we talk to and that our partners talk to, is the importance of security. Google pioneered this concept of zero trust, which, if you think about our business, we were built in the public cloud. We need to make sure that our system is entirely robust. So zero trust means we don't trust anybody. In my work environment, I don't have a VPN because we've built an ecosystem that is so secure it doesn't require a VPN. It's pretty amazing. It's the only business I've worked in that is like that. So, and then there's a whole heap of technical tools that our customers use. So, fundamentally, what we help businesses do is transform using data in the cloud.
Okay, so how do you promote the Google Cloud products that you've got? Do you promote them with your partners? Do you promote them by yourself? I don't really remember seeing, your old-fashioned TV ads about Google Cloud. So how do you actually promote them?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so, well, we do market. We have Google and Google Cloud have the traditional marketing channels that you would expect from other businesses. We have a Facebook page. We use LinkedIn for B2B marketing. Google as a business, it's a bit easier to market some of our other products, our consumer products. So in the Super Bowl, there was an ad for our new Pixel device, for example. Google Cloud, the way we go to market, I think, is by some of the investments that we're making in industry. So Google announced publicly at the end of last year a $1 billion investment fund that was going to work on projects like with the CSIRO. So again, using data and AI and some of our devices one of the first projects is looking at the Great Barrier Reef and looking at the degradation of coral and tracking it using these automated AI-powered water drones that have cameras and map the Great Barrier Reef. So that's kind of one of the ways that we market. But I have a lot of experience with marketing together with our partners, because what our business customers care about is not necessarily that that we have the best data cloud. It's actually that we're able to solve real customer problems. So, in a telco, for example, how do we use what we call call center AI? You would have experienced that when you speak to an AI agent and it asks you questions and it responds to your voice. Not only are they hugely efficient in making sure that only calls that need to be answered get through to a human agent. If they can provide, the AI can provide the information a customer needs, then it saves that person having to answer a call. But it provides a huge level of real-time data about what people are asking. Now, that type of story that we might be working on with one telco customer might be interesting to another telco customer. So a lot of our marketing, our services marketing, is B2B. We might write white papers that we then publish on our site or publish with our partners. We run events that our customers and our partners' customers are invited to participate in. We often speak at industry conferences and events. So a lot of our B2B marketing happens sort of in channels that we know will get directly to the people. I mean, marketing via LinkedIn is a huge way that we try and get the right message to the right people at our audiences. I'd like to say that in the future you'll see a Google Cloud advertisement or something sponsored, but watch this space.
Okay, that's terrific. Dan, you've gone through a lot of information for us today. Before we finish up and let you go back, thank you for your time. Is there anything final that you'd like to say?
Look, I think Google is playing. I'm really passionate about this business. I think it's an extraordinary company. I think the cloud and cloud computing, AI and ML is a space that is hugely interesting and is only going to become more and more important. So if I was studying right now, I would be thinking about how could I stay abreast of the developments of artificial intelligence and machine learning, because it is going to be even more relevant in the years to come. I mean, I'm watching the things that we are solving in financial services, in banking, in telcos, with airlines, almost in manufacturing, every industry, in automotive, you name it, we are working with businesses to radically transform the way things happen. So that would be probably my key takeaway is, how could I think about, if I was my 20-year-old self again, I'd be thinking about how do I follow AI and ML, because no matter what career you take, it will be a core part of the way people do business. Okay.
Well, I think that's a great way to finish there. Thank you so much for your time. It's been really interesting to talk to you about the fact that you work for such an amazing company as Google, who we've all heard about. So I just want to thank you for your time, and I hope the students have appreciated listening to you.
Nice to see you.